Imagine opening your annual property tax bill and seeing its largest portion disappear. That is the idea that the Texas governor is promoting as part of his 2026 property tax platform. But the phrase, eliminate property taxes, can be misleading if it makes people think their entire tax bill would go to zero. The current proposal is specifically aimed at eliminating school district property taxes for homeowners. It does not currently promise to eliminate city, county, MUD, or any other local property tax. So what exactly is being proposed? Which taxes might disappear? Which ones would remain? And how would Texas continue paying for public schools? Let's break it down. Quickly before we get started, just to clarify, this video discusses a political proposal as of July 2026. No law has yet eliminated school district property taxes for Texas homeowners. Details may change when legislation is filed. First, Texas does not have a state property tax. Property taxes are imposed locally by different taxing units. Depending on where you live, your bill may include your school district, county, city, hospital district, community college district, emergency services district, or a municipal utility district, commonly called a MUD. These entities use the revenue for different purposes. School districts fund public education. Counties help fund courts, roads, sheriff's offices, and other county services. Cities fund police, fire protection, streets, parks, and municipal operations. MUDs may fund water, wastewater, drainage, and infrastructure debt. A public improvement district, or PID, may also impose a special assessment for improvements inside that particular district. Although that charge may appear with your tax information, it is not necessarily the same thing as an ordinary property tax. That means Texas cannot simply erase one single statewide tax. Any proposal must identify which local tax is being removed and what will replace the revenue. Texas officially confirms that property tax rates are set and collected by local taxing units rather than the state. So what is the current Texas governor actually proposing? Well, he's proposing a 5-point plan that calls for a constitutional amendment allowing Texas voters to eliminate school district property taxes on homeowners. The wording is important. It does not say that every property tax imposed on every property would disappear. It targets the school district portion paid by homeowners. It is also not current law. The legislator would first have to approve the amendment by a required 2/3 vote in both chambers. Texas voters would then have to approve it in a statewide election. And even then, the most important details would have to be written into the legislation. For example, what legally counts as a homeowner? Would the change apply only to a primary residence with a homestead exemption? Would it apply to second homes? And would it eliminate every portion of the school tax? Those questions have not yet been fully answered in the brief campaign proposal. The current governor's materials expressly say the plan would use a constitutional amendment to eliminate school district property taxes for homeowners. School district property taxes generally have two parts. The first is maintenance and operations, otherwise known as M&O. That pays for day-to-day expenses such as salaries, transportation, utilities, and instructional operations. The second is interest and sinking, or INS. That pays the principal and interest on voter-approved school bonds often used to construct or renovate facilities. Earlier property tax discussions in Texas frequently focus on reducing or eliminating the M&O portion, but Abbott's current published proposal uses the broader phrase school district property taxes on homeowners. The campaign document does not clearly explain whether existing INS taxes would also be eliminated, how outstanding school bonds would be repaid, or whether the state would assume some of that debt. Until actual legislation is filed, anyone claiming to know exactly how school bond taxes would be treated is getting ahead of the available details. The Texas Education Agency confirms that school tax rates consist of M&O and, where applicable, INS components. So even if voters eventually eliminated the entire school district portion on qualifying homes, most homeowners would probably still receive a property tax bill. Your county tax would remain unless it were separately changed, your city tax would remain, and an applicable MUD tax would also remain. Taxes imposed by an emergency services district, hospital district, college district, or other special purpose districts would also remain unless a separate law changed them. PID assessments would not automatically disappear either. The governor's broader plan would place tighter restrictions on local spending and tax increases. It proposes local spending limits, a two-thirds voter approval requirement for tax increases, taxpayer-triggered rollback elections, less frequent appraisals, and a lower appraisal growth cap. Those proposals could restrain future bills, but they are different from eliminating county, city, or special district taxes. So how would Texas replace the school revenue? This is the central financial question. Eliminating a tax does not eliminate the cost of running public schools. Teachers still have to be paid, buses still have to run, campuses still require electricity, maintenance, security, technology, and special education services. The governor argues that the state can replace the lost local revenue while continuing to fund education. Texas has already used a more limited version of that strategy through tax rate compression. The state contributes more funding while school districts lower portions of their local M&O tax rates. The state has also expanded school district homestead exemptions. The general exemption is now $140,000, with greater protection for qualifying elderly or disabled homeowners. But completely eliminating school taxes for homeowners would create a much larger and permanent state obligation. Texas could use general revenue, future surpluses, sales tax collections, or another funding mechanism, but no detailed replacement formula has yet been enacted. Supporters argue that Texas' economic growth and spending discipline can make the change sustainable. Critics warn that budget surpluses are temporary while school expenses continue every year. During an economic downturn, the state could face pressure to cut other programs, raise another source of revenue, or reduce school funding. That is the real policy debate, not simply whether homeowners want lower taxes, but whether the replacement funding would remain dependable through both strong and weak economic years. So who would benefit? The direct benefit would primarily go to homeowners who qualify under the final legislation. Suppose your total property tax bill is $8,000, with $4,500 of that going to your school district. If the entire school portion on your home were eliminated, your direct savings could be approximately $4,500. But you could still owe the other $3,500 to your county, city, MUD, or other local districts. Actual savings would vary considerably based on taxable value, exemptions, local tax rates, and whether the final law removes both M&O and INS taxes. Renters would not receive a direct property tax exemption because they do not personally pay the property tax bill. Supporters may argue that lower taxes on rental properties could eventually help renters, but the current proposal is written around homeowners, and there is no guarantee that landlords would pass savings through as lower rent. Owners of commercial property, rental homes, and second homes should also not assume they would qualify until the final legislative language establishes the rule. Would your escrow payment immediately fall? Homeowners with mortgage escrow accounts should also understand that any savings might not appear immediately. Even after a legal change took effect, mortgage servicers would need updated tax bills and would normally perform an escrow analysis. Your payment could then decrease once the servicer determines that less money is required for future taxes. That process could take time depending on the law's effective date, local billing cycles, and your mortgage company's escrow schedule. So, can Texas really eliminate property taxes? Texas can legally eliminate a particular local property tax if lawmakers approve the necessary changes, voters approve the constitutional amendment, and the state creates a durable way to replace the revenue. But the current proposal does not mean every Texas property tax bill would fall to zero. The governor is proposing to eliminate the school district property tax portion for homeowners. County, city, MUD, and other special district taxes would remain unless separate reforms address them. Several major details are still unresolved, including who qualifies, whether school bond taxes would be included, how existing debt would be treated, and exactly how Texas would replace the revenue year after year. So the most accurate answer today is yes, Texas could eliminate school property taxes for qualifying homeowners, but it has not happened yet, and that is very different from eliminating every property tax in Texas. If you want straightforward fact-based explanations of how Texas government actually works, subscribe to Lonestar Breakdown. There's a lot more to Texas than the headlines, and we'll break it down one topic at a time.